appreciate what I say now, boss. The spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest. The cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. With the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. The world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty. Calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what was behind the curtain. The face of evil smirking, with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make me get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make me get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make me get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
Can you all hear me? Check, check, mic check. Can't hear you, Ike.
There we go. There we go. There we go.
We miss your profound words. Can you repeat that?
Oh, I have no idea what I was saying. You know how it goes. I was saying something about Aaron B is in the house. We got Wallace in the house. We got Dr. Thunder in the house. And welcome, welcome, welcome to this, the third episode of The Review with Ike and Joan. And we have a great episode for you. Something like that. I think that's what I was saying. So, how has your Wednesday been, Joan?
It's been good. Just handling business, going to the bank, doing important things.
Going to the bank. Who
How about you?
goes to the bank? Not bad. Not actually. I took an extended nap today. Kind of just slept in. I woke up and I could tell that certain things were off. Not in any big way. Just I needed to be more hydrated and I needed to rest a little bit more. Right. So I knew I was not going to be very useful. So I went and I got like 3 bottles out of my stash of Perrier's, put it on the side of the bed. And I just kind of slowly took those in as I kind of just napped and dreamt. And it worked because by the time I woke up fully, I had that feeling of, clean, fresh, not being irritated by the slightest thing, which was what was going on. And I know that's usually a sign of dehydration. Plus, I know I ate right before I went to bed, which tends to add to the dehydration of the night. But all good otherwise. Who goes to the bank anymore, Joan? What the hell are you doing at the bank?
I know, right? Setting up accounts, moving money around.
Look at you, setting up accounts, moving money around. Excellent. Excellent. Wallace says she went to the bank, got the whole bag, wanna be sugar. Oh, this guy.
Well, that's a compliment, I guess.
It is a compliment. It is a compliment. In many ways. In many ways.
Well, I have a story to tell you about my lighting. I ordered one of those ring lights that all the vloggers use, right? And it was supposed to show up at my place yesterday, which it did, but it went to the wrong building. So needless to say, I still don't have good lighting, but next week it'll be much better. But I guess this person decided to keep it. So, they live like a building down or so. And normally they bring it back. They say, hey, it showed up at my door. But I think this time they decided to keep my vlogging light.
Oh, the little round ring light.
Yeah, the
type
ring
stuff.
ones. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
and what kind of camera are you using today?
I'm just using my
resolution, or you're out of. Oh, what are you using?
Yeah, it's just the HD webcam.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Is that what you've been using this whole time?
Yeah. Is it different today?
Maybe I'm tripping.
Okay.
Because the HD webcam, it doesn't have that whole focus thing, right? Or so on and so forth, right? It should just kind of be like autofocus basic stuff. You don't have to there's not a range. Like if you're here, my hand is all blurry.
Exactly.
Kind of
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One day you're going to set up your fancy camera for this show, right? Oh, yeah. Because I know I know for the rest of your stuff. Okay. You give them the good footage and then you come over here and you just give us peanuts.
I know. I'm working on it. I'm a little bit technologically challenged, so I'm figuring it out.
Me too. I cannot deny that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we got Aaron B again. As I mentioned before, we got Sister George in the house. We got all kinds of peeps in the house. Okay, we got all kinds of peeps in the house. We have got the Carnus Lupus. Sounds like an interesting name. And we're going to be reviewing today another piece of footage from popular culture, and we're going to be giving our insights as it regards to human interactions, things that have to do with personality, identity, independence, skills of all kinds, and so on and so forth. Last time we looked at Grant Cardone and the Wolf of Wall Street. That was an exciting episode. I really enjoyed that one. Go back and watch that if you missed it, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be looking at the interview that Oprah did with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, right? Prince Harry, Harry Potter himself. And we shall see what we can get out of that. We can see what let's see. Let me see if I can properly share this, okay? Bada boom, there it is. The beginning of the video, ladies and gentlemen, apologies, the beginning of the video here, the quality of the camera is pretty crappy. And then it gets better. The quality of the camera gets better in terms of the resolution and whatnot. But I think I got the sharing ready to go. Let's go ahead and start it. Fair use. Fair use.
February or March 2018, before the wedding, asking, would you please give me an interview? And you said, I'm sorry, it's not the right time. And finally, we get to sit down and have this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I remember that conversation very well. I wasn't even allowed to have that conversation with you personally, right? There had to be people from the comments sitting there. Everything was.
There were other people in the room when I was having that conversation.
Yeah,
you turned me down nicely and said, perhaps there will be another time when there's the right time. What is right about this time?
Fair use, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, so many things that we're on the other side of a lot of life experience that's happened, and also that we have the ability to make our own choices in a way that I couldn't have said yes to you then. That wasn't my choice to make. So as an adult who lived a really independent life, to then go into this construct that is different than I think what people imagine it to be, it's really liberating to be able to have the right and the privilege in some ways to be able to say yes.
And to say.
Okay, Joan, what are you sensing? What are you feeling? What are you thinking so far? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Body language for sure. Body language right away. You could see where her eyes move, and she seems nervous. Like I feel like I could feel that she's nervous just watching her, the way her eyes like blink a lot, and where she's looking down to the right, then looks to the left, and just a lot of eye movement. That's very interesting when you think about, when they say they tend to look to the right, they're trying to come up with something. When they look to the left, they're recalling scenarios. So I think that's really interesting that she's doing that.
So yeah,
what do you pick up?
I pick up the same thing, and just to reiterate a point here, we are allowed to be as unscientific as we want. By unscientific, I mean we can use our intuition, we can use rational argumentation, but we don't have to, be super careful about the evidence, right? This is us just looking at something, and then we can speculate, right? This is speculation, right? So feel free to say whatever. Now, I did notice that as well. In other words, given the context as well, it makes sense. In other words, there was no real answer as to, why, what's so crazy about the past and then now and the things that she supposedly went through. And what do you think about the whole independence thing? Because there's a big theme all through this about independence versus duty. Independent, like the individual versus an institution, right? And what do you have to say about what she has said so far? Like, an independent, rather American thing to say, rather an American individual thing to say, and then to say, into this construct that maybe people don't, it's not what people seem, like kind of painting it in some kind of what's going on in there? They,
right.
Well, what are they doing? So what do you have to say about that whole independence thing that she brought up?
To be honest, I don't know a lot about her. I think she's an actor, right? She was an actor or something.
Yeah.
She's been married before. So she, the whole American independence thing, she's probably like a strong career woman type. And now she's married into this royal family and the duties. And I think she's coming off as naive to the situation that she married into. I mean, I'm kind of thinking that she's an actor, so she seems very much like she's trying to act out her emotions, whether they're genuine or not.
she's trying to what I see is like she's trying to decide what to feel and how to show it, right? Like how
Yeah,
what
I mean,
should I
again, with
feel
the
here?
eye thing. Yeah,
Mhm.
you know, with her eyes, like she's, you know, thinking like, okay, is this how I want to convey myself? You know, as I'm trying not to answer the questions. It's yeah, you're right. She sounds like she's kind of going in circles, not really saying like, yeah, my life sucks, you know, compared to how it was. Like she's not clear.
Hmm. Okay. So someone says, do you guys think she was acting with her emotions that you think make her nervous, or is there anything? I'm not quite sure what the straight up the question was there, but with regards to nervousness, right? Do you think that nervousness plays a part, or because she's a friend, like Oprah is a neighbor, she knew Oprah before this and all that kind of stuff. Oprah helped with the move to the United
Mhm.
States, you know, and help her get a house, you know, somewhere where they all live. um, so what about the nervousness? Because what I see is not nervousness. I just see oh, okay. In other words, when I say I don't see nervousness, I see nervousness of a certain kind. Nervousness that
Mhm.
has to do with how am I going to portray myself? What should I? There was no genuine
Exactly.
emotion that sparked up. It wasn't like, oh my God, it's been so exasperating. Like, you know, she had to pick. Like, how do I present it this way? So
Yes,
that's kind of how I see it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm,
Okay.
hmm. And you have to consider that she is part of the royal family now. And I think there's still maybe pressure for her to present herself a certain way as to why she avoided the interview the first time. But now that I think at this point, they've cut off the ties, right?
Yeah, they have cut off the ties at this point, and
Hmm.
also speaking of that whole royal family thing, and then I was not free. But the thing is, these people have agents, especially actors and so on and so forth. Even if you're a CEO of a company or something like that, you have agents, you have handlers, you have people who tell you yes, yay, or nay.
Hmm.
So the idea, the whole thing is this: there's a whole painting of this whole kind of mystery, and it's all for the camera, I would say. Of oh my God, people were just
Yes.
over my shoulders. I could not say I was not free to talk to Oprah on my own. Oh my God. And it's like, you've been living this way since forever. What's so strange about having handlers, right?
Right, right. I guess maybe it's because of the whole royal family ties. Maybe she's worried that she might get killed or something, assassinated or whatever. I don't know.
Well, we shall see. We shall see. Let's go. Let's go. And I think that the theme of that whole independence versus, well, yeah, I think you mentioned she's married into the royal family. And I think there's a certain amount of disingenuousness, like almost like not knowing what she was getting into to begin with, given everything that everybody knows about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's one thing, the British tabloid, and I think they'll get into the press angle, but the British tabloid is a little rougher than the American one. So that much is true. But let's see what else. Let's see what else.
Say for yourself.
There was such an obsession about anything in my world, including tracking down my parents, and I did everything I could to protect both of them in
Where
that
you
media frenzy. But for over a year, the UK tabloids were trying to find my dad, offering people so much money to try to find his address. Once they did, I remember being told there was a huge headline like, "We found him," or "We've got him." You're talking about someone's father. And from that point, the tabloids, they moved into the apartment next door and across from him, descended on this small town, were just giving him gifts. The whole thing brings us to where we are today.
Did it feel like betrayal when you found out your father was working with the tabloids?
I'm just trying to decide if I'm comfortable even talking about that. It was, if we're going to use the word betrayal, it's because when I asked him, when we were told by the comms team this is a story that was going to be coming out, which, by the way, the tabloids had apparently known for a month or so and decided to hold until the Sunday before our wedding because they wanted to create drama, which is also a really key point in all this. They don't report the news, they create the news. We called my dad and I asked him, and he said, no. Absolutely not. And I said, you know, the institution has never intervened for anything for us, but they can try to go in and kill this story. But if they do this once, we're not going to be able to use that same leverage to protect our own kids one day.
He said, no, absolutely not. He hadn't been talking to them?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he basically lied
Fair
to you.
use.
Well, and so when I said we won't be able to protect our own kids one day, and I said, so I just need you to tell me, and if you tell me the truth, we can help. And he wasn't able to do that. And that for me has really resonated, especially now as a mother. You know.
Not being willing to protect you.
And also me saying just full stop, if we use this to protect you, we won't be able to protect our own children one day. Well, I'm talking about your grandchildren. So I can't, I mean, I look at Archie, I think about this child, and I go, I genuinely can't imagine doing anything to intentionally cause pain to my child. I can't imagine it. So it's hard for me to reconcile that.
So there's an aspect now which has to do with family, quote unquote, you know, to use Oprah's provocative term, betrayal and things of that nature. And I'm not quite sure what was going on, but I don't think there was, you know, life and death threats or anybody getting chopped into pieces involved here. And there's a certain kind of gravity that's being brought to the whole situation that to me just seems kind of odd. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
She looks like she's formulating sentences as she goes. And I'm like listening, like, okay, what's her point? You know? So I was a little confused, like how that was even, why she even started talking about it. Did I miss something? Why is she talking about her dad all of a sudden?
I think her dad worked with the tabloid. Let's just say that, like her dad gave some scoops or some news or whatever, and the dad said, "Oh no, I didn't do it."
Yeah, no, she
and
seems.
Then she's okay.
Yeah, she's. I don't know. I just get this vibe from her that she's covering up something. She's again like formulating a scenario right on the spot on what's going on. I don't know. I was a little confused. Like, where's she going with this?
How would you have handled that question? You know, not even knowing what the question is. In other words, because one could say, for example, well, let me ask you. Someone is asking you about your family, right? Did they betray you by talking to the media? How do you handle that question?
Yeah, that would be a tough one to answer, I guess. I would have to really think about that if I were sitting in front of Oprah, if my family is using the media against me. They're like, yeah, I think it's bullshit. Like, you know, it's none of their business. My life is none of their business. So why are you, my family, getting involved in my life and how it's presented to the media?
And isn't there something to be said for, if you don't want your family talking about you, if there is a principle behind it, it's not a question of, you know, picking whom you're going to choose to talk about versus whom you're not going to talk about. If there is an overarching principle about we don't talk about these kinds of things, why are you talking about your dad?
Yeah, exactly. I think she's trying to find something to blame.
In other words, she seems rather complicit in this whole let's gin up a story. After all, she is in the entertainment industry. She is
exactly.
And this is Oprah. Let's make it a show. Anyways, this is not judgment. Anyways, I'm over here on YouTube.
Yeah,
I'm over
we're
here
on YouTube because we don't care what anyone thinks, right? So we're on
YouTube clout chasing after some, you know, reviewing some video. But point is, there is a certain kind of, oh my God, how could he have done that? He, you know, I think he betrayed me, or that was not so on and so forth. But then it's like, okay, you are saying this about him, but haven't violated that principle when it came to you, but you're right now violating the same principle, right? Going in on him, if you will. And if it's a principle, again, it doesn't matter whether or not now, quote unquote, he deserves it, because the principle still remains, right? And I think you would actually come off as more dignified if you said, I am not going to do the same thing that he did, right? I'll let him stand on his own words and let the record be what it is, but I'm not going to go and give my own personal thoughts regarding what he did, because I did not think he was right for him to do that to me if he did that, and I'm not going to do the same.
Right. I mean, I think she's just trying to constantly put herself in that victim role. I'm the victim of everybody, even my own family or my own dad, the royal family and my dad.
Yeah, let's just talk about the protection from something that is out there. What do you think she meant when she said that thing about, oh, I cannot imagine anything, doing something wrong with my child, and my dad did not protect me. My dad did not think it crucial enough to come clean such that we can still save face, because the whole idea is, hey, if we have to pull some levers for you right now, we're not going to be able to pull those levers if we have to use them for our kids or something like that. And it's like, oh, my dad was not even considerate enough to say, hey, let me just come clean. That way they don't have to use these levers, and they still have this card to protect the kids later. What's this kind of protection thing when you're in the entertainment industry and you're married into the royal family, and you're still acting like you're not a public persona? Or like, what do you think she means by this
Right.
protection?
Yeah, I would think it has something to do with just her public image, right? I, the dad doing whatever he did to betray her. I mean, now that she's married into the royal family, like she's got the whole world's attention, and there are people out there that want to take advantage of that. And out of nowhere, her dad comes back to her life, right? Because she hasn't seen him since whenever. And yeah, I mean, protecting her reputation, protecting her privacy, I guess, her kids' privacy. I mean, I know that was kind of a thing too for, was it Princess Diana and, William and Harry, and them growing up and just being able to do what they want to do like normal people and go eat McDonald's or something. And I think I would think she's talking about her privacy and her image. But
Where is
obviously,
so let's as they say, so we're not arguing against a straw man here. Where is let's forget the fact that, okay, she may know and she may be used to, she after all was an actress who then went into this royal family business. But what do you have to say about this privacy thing? Like, where is the danger in terms of real time or in real life, or what is it? Because it's not only him or only her that has said something about it. There's something about celebrities talking about wanting a certain level of privacy. And there's some celebrities whom, by the way, are successful like keeping a private life. Someone like Tom Hanks, for example, right? You just don't hear about, you don't see. And what is it? Do they have a part to play, number one, outside of, okay, you went into the industry? That's the number one part. Let's grant them that. But is there something else that you can do? And also, where is there a real harm vis-a-vis privacy? What is your experience with that?
with privacy, just being a public figure.
Privacy, being a public figure, and the dangers, if you will, and how it may be handled. What are the real substantive dangers that are there, if any?
Right. With how media works, press works, they're going to look for a story. And she knows this. She knows that she's in the entertainment business. Like, there's just lack of privacy at that point, depending on also how often you're in people's faces. And now that you're married to the royal family, it's even in front of more faces that you're who you are and what you do with your personal life. And no matter what it is that she does, I mean, I think she's done a lot of these interviews too. She's just parading her fame as the wife of Prince Harry. I mean, I don't know what her end goal is, but you're in an entertainment business, like your privacy is always going to be something that you have to figure out how you're going to manage, how you're going to protect. But she's out and about. She's everywhere. I mean, I've seen I think I looked her up a little bit. I saw like pictures with her with all kinds of bigger names, and she wants to be known. She wants everybody to pay attention to her.
Everyone's coming for Meghan today. This one says she married him because he was rich and famous, powerful, blah, 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 opening doors to protect her children. I think her children are probably far more protected, perhaps not in that privacy regime, if you will. However, this is something that you are quite aware of. In other words, again, to that whole thing about the independent versus the institution, the whole idea of the I'm an independent person versus the fact that, let's even take it a level higher. There are only trade-offs in life. There is no solution. There's no perfect thing. Like, you can't be like, oh, I want to be in the royal family, and I also want to just run around eating burgers and nobody look at me. And also, but everybody respect me. Everybody know that I'm rich, famous, and powerful, but nobody talk about it. It's like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, again, like naive, right? Or she's playing naive. She knows what she's doing. I don't know. Just the way her body language is, the way she's formulating her words. Like, she knows what she's doing.
Got it. Taboo Smash in the house. $5 super chat, $5 super chat, $5 super chat. Yeah, so I think we're getting quite a bit out of this, just even in the very beginnings of it all. And I don't know, there's also some shall we say, prejudice against Meghan. I don't know if it's earned or not. I never followed her per se. To put my cards on the table, I heard one speech she gave that I found annoying. Let me ask you what you think about this. Do you know what I'm going to say? No, I actually don't have it, but I'm going to paraphrase her. Okay. Now, it has to do with there's a whole racism angle of this, which hasn't appeared yet. And that pisses me off, generally speaking. Okay. And he wants to start saying racism, whatever. There's a oppression Olympics, which came in as well later on. We'll talk about it. But there was something that, she gave a speech, okay? And, I'm going to put my cards out here as a male chauvinist misogynist, which, no big deal. And she was talking about how
used to it.
I'm used to it. Oh, no big deal. She saw a commercial, and she was talking about, a woman, she's going to clean her pots. Women all over America, that kind of a commercial, women all over America are saying yes to this new XYZ product, to Acme cleaning, whatever. And she was giving a speech, in one of these award shows. You know how they come on these award shows. They want to tell everybody about their political opinions. And she was like, that's when I knew, like, I asked myself as a little girl, why are they directing it towards women?
Oh, God.
Okay, what do you think about that? Because I said, oh, yeah, of course, you're a guy, you're going to say that. Now, without, so yeah, so come for me. Say, Ike, you're a chauvinist pig. Don't you understand that this is putting images in her head that she's nothing but a dishwasher? Go ahead, tell me.
Yeah, you're a chauvinistic pig, and she's nothing but a dishwasher. Well, oh God, yeah. Don't even get me started, okay, with this whole women image of. Anyway, I mean, you heard the whole thing with like the Victoria's Secret. Have you heard about that?
Go ahead. No. Formulate your thoughts, gather it, lay it out for us. The floor is yours. You seem, you seem to have a lot to say about this. Go ahead and say it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's take it there. This whole woke culture thing where it's like, oh, women, fitting into these stereotypes. Well, I mean, like as if that's wrong, feminine nature, it's just the women just naturally is better at washing dishes, okay? But
that's pretty funny, actually. That's funny stuff.
Yeah, no, again, like there's this train right now. Everyone's riding on it. And I'm noticing that a lot in companies, big brands. And of course, I mean, she looks a certain way, she's just a commoner that's divorced and then marries into the royal family. She wants to make a difference. She has to say something that makes her appear a certain way. Like she's a strong, independent woman that married, a prince and has kids with, still plays, the feminine role, but she has a problem with it too, or she just has to present herself that she has a problem with it.
Well, let's is it the case that, because let's say for example, okay, we switched it over and it was this guy swinging, he had this jackhammer, right? Mm-hmm. And we were like, men all over the world are Black & Decker, blah, blah, blah. It's the best jackhammer, right? Or whatever it may be, okay? Now, we know that
But
generally speaking, there's not an equal pushback to say, well, how dare you say why don't you show me you breastfeeding a baby? I'm a man, I could breastfeed too. Something like that. But let's look at the situation where there may be possible credence for this. Do you think that people are affected by the images that they see? In other words, like, is it possible that young Meghan saw that dishwashing commercial and thought, oh my God, I can't be an engineer, I can't be a nurse, I can't be a doctor, secretary, any other thing, I can't write books because all I see on TV is dishwashing commercials with women in it. Is there any credibility to the fact that what people see tends to affect what they see as possible? In your life, let's start with you. Did you need to see certain kinds of people? In other words, that whole representation. I need more Filipino women with glasses in a particular area of life.
Are you talking to the wrong person?
Otherwise, I have no idea I could do this thing. I never saw any Filipino women with glasses. So tell me what your thoughts are, or can you even give some credence, steelman the argument of the other side, if you will?
Well, it goes back to the conversation of the ego having to be recognized, having to be seen. I don't know. I never cared for those things, to be honest. I always just walked through my life, not reminding myself, hey, I'm a Filipino woman, and I need to see Filipino women on TV. Because first of all, I don't watch TV that much. And I just don't think, I don't know. I never really cared for that stuff. The representation, that stuff never really mattered to me. I mean, if you're up there doing your thing as an actor or musician or some artist, it's because you have that talent, and it doesn't matter if you're Filipino or, albino Nigerian. If you're doing something great, you have something to offer. It doesn't matter what you look like. I mean, that's just the way I experience it, at least.
Well, that makes perfect sense. Now, I've heard some people say that, okay, well, let's drill down into that a little bit more, in the sense that if you go to places such as Africa, for example, a lot of women will go into, like Ethiopia, for example, a lot of women will go into engineering, okay, because of the opportunities. And they typically have very strong gender roles there. And there are not a lot of women engineers in statues or billboards around. So it kind of kills that whole idea. It's more, as I tend to agree with you, number one, from a personal standpoint, okay, personality-wise, your personality, you're saying, I never cared. I never needed to see this particular type of person in order for me to feel like I can do something. As a matter of fact, it's almost insane to me. Like, it's kind of just, it's like, like, I heard a joke recently about, they were like, oh, Black Panther, I really like that movie. Now, you see, African-American kids or Black kids can now have someone to look up to, not just Martin Luther King, and it's not just Malcolm X anymore, or Glenn Lowry, or Thurgood Marshall, and he just went through a list of like 50 people which were there for them to look up to. Oh, now we have a fake person that dresses like a cat. Now they know that they're somebody, right? It's like this kind of insanity. In other words, it's about recognition. It's about ego. I want to be on the billboard in the popular culture too. It has nothing to do with the fact that what you can or cannot do. I don't need to see some guy dressed as a cat for me to know that I can do something with my life, right? Now, you see, the steel man aspect of this is that, and by steel man is the opposite of straw man. It's like, okay, let's not just create a straw man and beat it down. What is the strength in their argument? You see, there are people who need to, okay, and you're not one of those, neither am I. But there are people who need to have experienced things, okay? Now, I'm not saying so far as, I got to see a doctor, so-and-so, but generally speaking, they learn very much from experience. They need to touch it, see it, taste it, feel it. They need to have had, in other words, they cannot just think, will I like being an architect? No, they literally have to have known an architect. They literally have to have seen a doctor. They literally have to have smelt what that kind of place is like. Otherwise, it's hard for them. But the whole media thing doesn't work out. Just because you see a doctor on TV doesn't mean that you can know whether you like being a doctor or not. It's just going to push your ego towards that direction or not. In other words, the only credence that argument has is the fact that some people do learn from experience, okay? And Dr. K Polymath is the expert in this particular kind of model type stuff, but these people are called censors as opposed to intuitives. Intuitives can just imagine, will I like this? Will I like that? Would I, you don't have to have seen an architect morning, noon, and night for you to know whether you like it or not, or whether it's something that you would possibly be engaged in. But anyways, let's continue with the interview now that we've had Joan give us she's put her cards on the table and she's like, damn with the woke, damn with all this BS, and so on and so forth.
Yep, I'm out.
She is out. Let's see. Unmute this and play.
Father being hunted down, it seemed like you were saying in some ways that they did this to him.
Fair use.
So I want you to be able to clarify this, that the tabloids, the media did this to him, they hunted him, but he has a responsibility in it too.
Everyone has accountability. Look, they've hunted my mom down.
Right. And she didn't speak to the tabloids.
You've never heard her say a word. She's remained in silent dignity for 4 years, watching me go through this.
And Samantha Markle, your half-sister on your father's side, has written a supposedly tell-all book about you. What is your relationship with her?
I think it'd be very hard to tell all when you don't know me. And I mean, this is a very different situation than my dad, right? When you talk about betrayal, betrayal comes from someone that you have a relationship with, right? I don't feel comfortable talking about people that I really don't know. But I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows. And I wished I had siblings. I would have loved to have had siblings. That's why I'm so excited to be pregnant, so that Archie has someone. It was really interesting the last time I saw her must have been at least 18, 19 years ago. And before that, 10 years before that.
So you all weren't close? You didn't grow up together?
No.
She doesn't really know you?
No, she changed her last name back to Markle I think she was in her early 50s at that time, only when I started dating Harry. So I think that says enough.
You say the narrative with Kate, it didn't happen. So specifically, did you make Kate cry?
No.
This is just
so where
silly
did
at
that
this
come
point.
from?
Yeah.
Was there a situation where she might have cried or she could have cried?
No, the reverse happened.
You knew all along, and people around you knew that that wasn't true.
Everyone in the institution knew it wasn't true.
So why didn't somebody just say that?
It's a good question.
Speaking to Oprah, the Duchess of Sussex described a world that left her isolated and feeling trapped.
I remember so often people within the firm would say, well, you can't do this because it'll look like that. You can't, can I go and have lunch with my friends? No, you're oversaturated, you're everywhere. And I said, I've left the house twice in 4 months. I'm everywhere, but I am nowhere. And from that standpoint, I continued to say to people, I know there's an obsession with how things look, but has anyone talked about how it feels? Because right now, I could not feel lonelier.
What you laughing at, Joe?
I don't know. Sounds like she's full of shit.
Oh, really? Okay, well, let it out. Let us know what's
I know. It's going into girl drama now. Girl drama with Kate. I don't know. Kate made her cry, I guess, instead of the other way around. I mean, I don't know the story.
Me neither. But how about the feel versus, because, okay, the how it feels versus how it looks. In other words, the running theme here is independent individual versus institution. I want to do what I want to do versus I have responsibility and I'm literally playing a role, meaning I put on a dress. I'm in this family where people put on robes and put little funny hats on their head, right? And they come out and they walk around like this and literally playing a role. Now, there's something generally speaking about the American spirit that pushes against that. But as an individual, you also respond. The thing about individualism is, okay, you can say individualism all you want, but the individual can voluntarily go into a situation where they understand what the stakes are and play the role, right?
Right.
So what, again, is this whole thing about how I feel and I don't like handlers and I want to go have lunch with my friends and all that kind of stuff? To me, it sounds rather childlike in a situation where you wanted to go into this family, you know what's going on over there. It's probably even less so now than it was in the past when it was more consequential, if you will, in other words, their image. But why the what do you think she expected, and what do you think she felt?
I'm sure she knew exactly what she was walking into. I'm sure she's had conversations with Kate, who's doing all of that, right? Playing the role, making the appearances, dressing a certain way, speaking a certain way, and she knows what she's getting into. And again, she's playing the whole victim thing where it's like, oh, I married into the royal family, I don't have a life anymore. Like, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, you knew what you were doing. You knew you were marrying into this. She should. I don't know why she's acting like, oh, my life is so hard now.
Would you marry into a
I don't have to
family?
listen to everybody.
Would you marry a prince?
No.
Okay, then. Okay, so let me ask you then, why? Is it because you don't want to have to deal with the things she's dealing with?
Probably. I mean, I like my privacy. I mean, I to a certain extent,
like your
I don't
privacy.
mind being
You play in a band and you're over here on YouTube and
yeah, I know, right?
and selling high ticket bands over there. And if you became a billionaire tomorrow and your face was all over billboards at the high ticket band, magnificent, magnanimous superstar of the universe when it comes to bands, would you be opposed to that?
I don't need the press and all that stuff standing outside my door every freaking day. Like, that's what I mean, I mean, yeah, of course, the attention's fun, being a musician, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd be down to hang out with a prince and find out what he's all about and see what, how he likes his life. But at the end of the day, it's like, I can decide how I want to move forward.
Oh, you'd be down for the prince to do a little tricking, like, hey, buy me some nice dinners and do this and fly me out, get flued out. But no marriage though. Hey, I do like the honesty. I like the honesty. It's like, I think that she kind of probably rolled from, it's slippery slope, right? You never quite know. Maybe that's what she wanted. Maybe she just wanted to hang out. She wanted to see what's up over there, and it's just like. And then she started like, oh, but maybe I don't want to leave now.
Yeah. I read this article where I can't remember what the exact quote was, but it was like, I don't want the role, but I want to still be called Duchess or something like that. I don't know if you came across that, but it's the whole thing, like naive. Like, she wants something, but then now it's not going her way, and now she's being a whiny little brat.
Okay, because there's something we can say about the personality of somebody whom is in the industry that she's in, and then whom goes and marries a prince, right? In other words, this is not someone who's ashamed of the attention, per se. Oh, right, not ashamed, right. But yeah, okay. So let's see if some of this silliness about the caddy and the who made whom cry is going to move forward into something more substantial. Let's see here.
To really worsen, that I came to understand that not only was I not being protected, but that they were willing to lie to protect other members of the family, but they weren't willing to tell the truth to protect me and my husband.
Know your rank. Some other people in the family rank higher than you.
Yeah,
I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And that was a very clear and real and frightening, constant thought. And I remember how he just cradled me, and I went to the institution, and I said that I needed to go somewhere to get help, and I was told that I couldn't, that it wouldn't be good for the institution. I share this because there's so many people who are afraid to voice that they need help. And I know personally how hard it is to not just voice it, but when you voice it, to be told no. But we had to go to this event, and I remember him saying, I don't think you can go. And I said, I can't be left alone.
because you were afraid of what you might do to yourself?
And we went, and
I'm so sorry to hear that.
months when I was pregnant, all around this same time. So we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title. And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
Dum dum dum.
Oh, God.
Okay, so he won't be given a title. I don't know why she mentioned that. She shouldn't be caring about any of this anyway. She's an independent American woman.
Yeah, exactly. Why you gotta make it about race?
And the title, and then the darkness of the skin. Let me ask you what you think about that. In other words, look, you would be crazy to think that someone is not going to say something about whether the kid is going to be dark or not. You're insane, right? I think it's, in other words, to bring it out like,
I know. I mean,
the conversations about how dark the skin is. It's like, you damn right someone's going to probably think, I wonder how dark it's going to be and how do we handle that? There is something, anyways, go ahead. What do you have to say about everything that she said so far? I think the girl with the drama silliness ended, and now she's talking about the title that the kid's not going to have. They will protect other people over me, which is like, dude, you're like,
yeah.
I don't think you're even in line, and none of you in line for anything, right? So there's obviously a totem pole here of whom a hierarchy here, okay? And you don't really dwell there. So on the one hand, you want hierarchy, you want protection, you want special pleading and all that kind of stuff. And then on the other hand, you're like, oh, but I want to go have lunch with my friends. This is the kind of situation whereby you need to understand, you got to put in like 10 or 20 years into the situation, into the firm, if you will, before then one day you're not going to be able to come out and now you're an elder stateswoman. And, Meghan gets to speak her mind, right? And she gets to do this and do that kind of a thing. But that's how it works. This is an ancient institution. And then the whole thing about the racism. So you go ahead, comment if you will.
I mean, unfortunately, like that's, shallow conversations happen like that, I mean, I've heard it before, and it's like, they're wondering what color my child's going to be. Oh, poor me. It's silly. It's dumb. I don't know. I think it's dumb. But, back to the whole title thing, from as far as I understand, because Prince William keeps, knocking up Kate and having more and more kids, that makes it further and further down the line for Harry to even have a chance to step into that big role. So it's duh.
So, well, let me ask you a personal question. Are you going to have any kids, Joan?
If it's meant to happen. Yeah,
if it's meant to happen. What the hell does that even mean?
Because, okay, like to be completely honest, like at this point in my life, I don't want him. Okay. I have other things I'd rather worry about and other things I'd rather do with my time than taking care of a little child, So, but again, it's if my life leads me to that where, okay, yeah, that works, then sure. But I mean, I don't really think about it that much. That's just where I am right now because I'd rather focus on other things. And yeah, I mean, again, like if it's supposed to happen, I guess,
Okay.
What about you? Are you planning to have kids?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's have a few Ikes around to take over the Ikean dynasty, and continue this very solid aristocracy, which I'm spearheading at the moment. Anyways, now I'm just but yes to everything I just said. 100%, I mean it. Okay. There was no joke in there, not even about the aristocracy or anything. No, you know how I roll. But so no one has been asking you about how the color your kids are gonna be.
Right. I've heard it. Yeah. I mean, I have, some shallow relatives that bring up, okay, so I have a cousin that married a black guy and it was like a whole controversy, like what their kids are going to look like. And then I have this other cousin that married, like a dark Filipina, like, and I remember his mom. I know. Right? It's a thing in Filipino culture, like the whole darkness. I mean, it's a thing. The whole idea that, oh, if you're a darker Filipino, you're just not as attractive or you look a certain way. I mean, I heard that growing up. I mean, being a child, being told like, oh, don't spend too much time in the sun, you'll get dark. You don't want to be dark. And I've heard like my cousins going through that. Like my cousin that married a darker complexion Filipino, his mom complained like, oh, they just had a kid and she's really dark. It's sad, but I've experienced that all my life. It's a thing. But to me, it's shallow, dumb conversation, and I just, that's
people
just
can see you're lighter, right? So you're one of the privileged ones. You're like lording it over them.
Yeah. I'm a privileged Asian. Like I can fit into the whole white category.
There you go. You got white privilege. In your intersectionality card ranks a lot lower in the oppression Olympics and everything. So.
Until I start going surfing every day, then that changes.
I see. So I like the fact that you mentioned that thing, because there is something about people acting as though these conversations are not 100% ubiquitous and natural. One can then begin to argue about, well, are they brutish? Are they ill? What's the ill intent? What perhaps can bad things result from such conversations and so on and so forth? But to talk about, well, let's say you talk about ugly babies versus cute babies. What's the difference, right?
What's the difference?
What I mean is, what I say is that you can talk about complexion. You can also talk about ugliness. You could talk about all kinds of things about the baby.
Yeah.
And I think it's all fair game. Why is it like
common? Yeah, it's just common, shallow conversation. I mean, I've heard these conversations all my life, and to me, it's just dumb and shallow. People just want to have something to talk about. No depth, no, I don't know, level of intelligence. And yeah, I just, yeah, she's acting like, oh my God, this is like so taboo. I'm so offended that you're wondering what color my child's gonna be.
Yeah, it's rather interesting. Now this is something that I tend to. Okay, have you heard of the Willie Lynch letters? Dum dum dum. I know you probably haven't heard of it. Okay,
No.
Nobody come for me. Okay, nobody come for me. The Willie Lynch letters has to do with, the how you break a slave. The same way, like how do you break horses, wild horses, right? How do you breed them, break them, train them, right? Such that, they do what you want them to do, right? Okay, so the Willie Lynch letters generally have this whole kind of aura around them as a special kind of evil. But the thing is, if you're going to be in the horse trade, sorry for putting it this way, in the cattle trade or whatever trade, any kind of chattel, including slavery of all kinds, whether it be the Arab slavery or the transcontinental African slavery, or whatever it's going to be, and you're going to be systematic about it, well, you better have some knowledge about best practices, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, people look at the Willie Lynch letters as some kind of special evil. You see, look at them. They had a whole book about how they blah, blah, blah us. That kind of a thing. And it's like, well, it would be insane if they didn't have a book. It's like you have this institution, you have this thing. It's like, of course you're going to be like, well, what's the best way of doing this and doing that so that they do what you want them to do? In other words, it baffles my mind sometimes how people take, and it's adjacent. It's not exactly what we're talking about here in terms of, but it's the relationship between these two things. On the one hand, the Willie Lynch letters, and on the other hand, conversation about the darkness of the baby, is that it's natural. It's gonna happen, natural occurrence. Okay, if you're gonna be the Arabs too, okay, when they were doing their own slave trade, even the Africans themselves, they have their ways of keeping slaves and so on and so forth, right? And breeding them and how you treat them and how you train them, if you will. It's almost, well, people say, oh, well, if you have a system, then you're so evil. It's like, well, it'll be crazy if they did not have a book about how you do that kind of a thing. So these kinds of things, and especially here on my channel, that's where I, in my own kind of cold-hearted way, because someone has to be that. No, personalities vary, I get it, okay? I'm not your feeler type, okay? But I think the non-feeler types, like me and perhaps yourself, we have our place, right? To kind of show people like, hey, here's really what's going on. Don't misinterpret this book here as something especially evil. As a matter of fact, it would be insane if they didn't have that book. Come on. It was an institution.
Right.
You're not mad at the institution. You're mad at the fact that they had a best practices that they were sharing amongst themselves. Come on. So anyways, yeah.
I mean, they got to
from
pass down the knowledge somehow. Right?
They're going to come for you, Joan. Hold on. Let me... Let's continue the video. Let's see. I'll mute that. Bam.
What?
And
Who is having that conversation with you? What?
so,
There is a conversation. Hold up.
there's
Stop
several
right now.
there's several conversations.
There's a
about it.
conversation with you
With Harry.
about how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like. That was relayed to me from Harry. If you zoom in, what I see is how tightly his knuckles are gripped around mine. You can see the whites of our knuckles because we are smiling and doing our job, but we're both
These
just trying to
conversations with your family members, they know why you left. So has anybody said, I'm sorry you had to make that move, or I'm sorry you felt that you had to do that because you felt we were not supporting you?
No, sadly not. The
Fair use.
the feeling
ninjas.
is that this was our decision, therefore the consequences are on us. And despite 3 years of asking for help and seeing or visualizing how this might end, it was, I don't know, it's been really hard because I'm part of the system with them. I always have been. But I guess I'm very aware of this, that my brother can't leave that system, but I have.
Does your brother want to leave the system?
I don't know, I can't speak for him. But with that relationship and that control and the fear by the UK tabloids, it's a toxic environment. But I will always be there for him. I will always be there for my family. And as I said,
Okay, I didn't plan on pausing it there, but when he said toxic environment, what comes to mind? You can relate it to this, or you can relate in general, because this is something that we hear generally speaking, right? I'm sure you've heard probably in the last month, somebody say something about he's toxic, that's a toxic situation, I was in a toxic relationship, toxic masculinity, whatever. What comes to mind with this toxic thing that people just throw out there?
Yeah, people are using that word a lot in the last, I don't know, couple of years. It's like everything's toxic. And I mean, the funny thing is I'm, listening to what he says, and it sounds like he really doesn't want to talk badly about his family. And he also said too that, I'll always be there for them. Yet he wants to cut off his ties. So maybe I don't know, man, can't help but feel that, she's just manipulating him. And he's just doing his best to be supportive of her. But he clearly still has a strong tie to his family and wants to be there for his brother and just still be there for him. And he said that, so I don't think he fully, he just doesn't sound like he's putting anything down on his family. He's still committed. He still has ties to them. He doesn't want to say anything bad about them. He's being very careful what he says, also like, I can't speak for my brother. He's respectful in a way.
So toxicity and manipulation. So the toxicity is something that let's just call it politically correct jargon to mean, right? If you don't have the correct set of political views, right, then you're toxic, right? If in the context of relationships, a lot of times, if I don't get to have my way, okay, then it's a toxic situation. The reason why I pause it there is because it's look, especially when a man says something like that, all my spidey senses go up because I'm like, men don't talk like this. This is bullshit. You're like, no self-respecting man is gonna be around his friends and say, oh, it was a toxic environment. You get slapped. Like, what the get the hell out of here. Anyways, so the whole manipulation thing there, I don't think it's a bad thing. In other words, some people may be like, oh, you're calling the woman manipulative. It's like, oh, women don't have look at him next to her. He's a big dude, right? Women don't grow up with strong upper body strength and so on and so forth, but they're still human beings and they have to deal. They have to transact in the world, right? So they're going to use other skills, right? They're better at that social emotional manipulation, right? The whole Mean Girls thing and so on and so forth. You know, the problem, generally speaking, with the Western world is that we tend to forget. We only see, again, I tend to emphasize it, that the male violence is out there, right? I can hit you with the spade on your head, right? That kind of a thing. While the female violence is hidden, hence people want to just tuck it away like it doesn't exist. However, it is often also the more dangerous one because people don't go to therapy 60 years after the fact because they got hit with a spade, but they tend to go to therapy because of emotional and psychological abuse, right? That kind of a thing. So that kind of manipulation, I think that I like to emphasize it, not because, well, maybe it's also because I'm a male chauvinist, misogynist, which I like to remind the audience from time to time in case anyone is, I preemptively label myself as that so that nobody, beats me to it. But also so that we can understand fully that there's violence on both sides. Both sides need to transact, and there are wrong ways to transact. Both sides sin, if you will, and they use their strengths, right? So the idea that he's being led around by the nose by her is not crazy. I mean, it happens a lot, you know. And what kind of advice would you give him, right, in that kind of a situation? What should he have done? Should he have put his foot down and say, hey, Meghan? Like, for example, I believe 2 episodes ago, I talked about being very clear with your deal. We were obviously talking about a different situation. You were like, well, what if you're this kind of guy who is go, work, blah, 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 and you're successful? And what do you do with the woman coming into your life vis-a-vis the fact that she's not going to be priority number one? And I say, well, make the deal very clear that this is what it is, this is what you get, blah, blah, blah. So he should have made the deal clear from the beginning, will be my piece of advice. What would you say to a man in that situation where the woman is trying to manipulate him and lead him by the nose?
I mean, it's tough because obviously they have this commitment together. They have children together. And I think what he needs to do is just really be clear, like, hey, this is my life. This is just how it's going to be. This is the environment that we're going to live in. No matter if we cut our ties or not, they're still tied to the royal family. And I think they just really need to be clear. He needs to be, put a foot down and like, hey, I don't know. I don't really know how he feels. I think he sounds like he's just saying things in support of her. And I think he needs to talk to her like, hey, is this the kind of life do you want? Like, what do you want? Like, what do you expect? This is just the way it is. I mean, it seems that she's behaving like she expects something else, but she wants something out of it.
Where does this typically lead?
The money.
when a woman tries to manipulate a man and then the man follows, where does it typically lead? Does it lead in the woman being happy?
Probably not. I mean, I wouldn't think so, because I mean, a woman wants a strong man, and if she's trying to
whoa. Here is a strong, independent Joan saying, what did you just say? A woman wants a strong man? I thought that was blasphemy these days.
I know, right? Yeah, there's something wrong with a woman wanting a manly man. There was a thing. There's a whole thing like, I can't remember. It's like a hashtag about let's bring back manly men. But again, let's get into that another time. But
okay.
I guess feel like women that want to control their men in the long run, just from what I've seen from other people, I just feel like they're never satisfied at the end. They're always going to want something else. They're always going to seek out something more. And if he just keeps going along with it, I mean, where's the excitement in that? You know? I mean, where's the growth? Where's the learning? I mean, and for him, I mean, him being a man, maybe a traditional man coming from a royal family, like, how does he feel, you know, with the woman trying to change the way he wants to live his life? I don't know. I just don't see, it's hard because they're married and they have kids together. So obviously they got to make it work. But I think they just need to figure out what the boundaries are. And she needs to just grow up and realize that this is just the way her life is going to be.
Yeah. And I blame the men. I blame the men in those situations because, and obviously it varies in terms of there is a curve in terms of statistical distribution of super manipulative woman all the time manipulating you versus maybe she'll just S-test you, SHIT test you is what they call it over here on the YouTube. Every once in a while, just kind of do something to see what you'll do every once in a while. In other words, it's to be expected. And in either case, no matter the extreme your woman happens to be in, it's your fault if you let it happen. In other words, if you go along with it, right? Because a woman expects you to know without you telling her. In other words, she expects you she expects you not to listen to her in certain regards. Because it's like you take your car to a mechanic. You said a woman wants a strong man, right? A capable man, right? You take your car to a mechanic, you want a capable mechanic, right? If your mechanic starts asking you, do you think I should unplug this wire first before I, right? You're like, whoa. That's a total turnoff in mechanic land. And then in the relationship land, total turnoff as well. It's like, no, she's not going to tell you, like, listen to me now. Don't be like, oh, this is the right way to do it. Like, no. That's the whole thing about, but women want us to read their minds. It's like, no, women want you to know where you're going, know what the right thing, be more mature. That's why from time immemorial, it's always the older man. Generally speaking, okay, the man is a little bit more mature or older or whatever it may be, or wealthy or whatever it may be than the woman, right? Hence, then it flows naturally because she's not going to be telling, if you have to tell the mechanic red wire first before blue wire, Jesus Christ, right? It's over. That relationship is over. So I blame the men. Don't expect a woman to tell you like, oh, but she didn't, she wanted. It's like, you're supposed to be the leader. She's supposed to be looking up to you. Remember that no matter how much she's busting your balls about it, you just heard it from the mouth of Joan. I didn't say it. Joan said that men or women want strong, they want strong men in their life. So there we go. There we go. Let's keep going with this.
I've tried to help them to see what has happened.
Do they think it's a toxic environment, or do you all just think it's a toxic environment because you're now out of it? If we were to have an interview with them or a conversation with them, does your father think it's a toxic environment or relationship?
No, I think he's had to make peace with it.
And why couldn't you make peace with it? I'll ask that of both of you.
Because this was different.
It's different because of the race
and social media.
Oh yes, different time. Different time.
That didn't exist, and so it was like the wild, wild west. It was spread like wildfire. Plus, my being American, it translated in a different way across the pond. So you had a noise level that was very different. But if they can't see that it's different,
so you felt bullied on an international level.
Look, I think the volume of what was coming in and the interest was greater because of social media, because of the fact that I was not just British, and that unfortunately, if members of his family say, well, this is what's happened to all of us, or if if they can compare what the experience that I went through was similar to what has been shared with us. Kate was called Waity Katie, waiting to marry William. While I imagine that was really hard, and I can't picture what that felt like. This is not the same. And if a member of his family will comfortably say, we've all had to deal with things that are rude and racist are not the same.
So What do you have to say about the oppression Olympics here? My suffering is bigger than your suffering. Rude and racist is not the same. If I come at you because your forehead is big, well, it's very different from if I come at you versus if you're because of your skin tone, right? Or your nose size or your whatever. Like, oh, there's a huge socio-political, historic background to the racism thing. Therefore, I'm carrying the weight of 3,000 or 4,000 years of the oppression of my people, and you cannot understand how I feel. Anyways, what do you have to say about that?
Okay, so I talked about my video about the ego, right? Where there's the ego that wants to feel superior and the one that wants to feel inferior. You could feed the ego with, putting them down, make them feel less than or inadequate, all that. So she's clearly doing that comparison. It's like, oh, my oppression is way worse than Kate. She was just waiting to marry Prince William, yet me, I have dark skin, so it was racist. But was it really racist? Or maybe, who knows? Like, what if they were judging her on her character, not her skin color?
Let's say they were judging her on her skin color. What then?
Sorry, what was that?
Let's say they were judging her on her skin color. What then?
And then what, right?
Should she still say, well, sure, they call, they made fun of Katie, but my skin color stuff, that's above and beyond. Is there any credence to that, or is this to be totally dismissed? And the only reason why it's given credence is because politically correct, woke culture, racism, oppression, blah, blah, blah bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that this whole collective of people are feeling oppressed, and therefore she's part of that collective, and she feels that it's racist towards her. I don't really know what the deal is. If it was about race, then okay, so do you still want to marry this man that you love because of that? Or are you going to not marry him and move on with your life because you can't deal with that? I mean, at the end of the day, people meet people and marry people from other cultures. And yeah, they experience the racism, but again, they follow their heart, right? And they still marry them. So what if it was racist? I mean, again, and going back to my family and like the things I grew up with, people kept making fun of my cousin's husband because he was Black, but they still got married and they moved on with their lives. They have 3 kids now. It's so what? You live your life, and who cares? You're always going to come across people judging you and criticizing you for every little thing, whether it's something small about, with whatever Kate's going through, and something huge according to Meghan. But again, you move on with your life, grow some balls. Live your life. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks of you.
So you say that, right? You say that. What is the response that people, how many, you're in the music industry, right? And I dabble in the music industry. That music industry is filled with different kinds of hippies, right? You have the Joan type hippie. It's a different kind of hippie, almost like a conservative hippie, just more like an independent, free thinking type of person, kind of crazy, kind of wild. And then you have the bead wearing, every conspiracy theory is a great thing. I check with my chakras and I read tarot cards in order to go decide whether I'm going to go to the grocery store today or not. That type of person. And then you have like the artist, the smallest percentage, by the way, of this whole crew. Probably like 1% is like the real, very creative, hyper, blah, blah, blah type of person. And then you have like the hipsters. Are there for the culture. They're there for the clout. They're there to, before the artist was cool, right? I used to hang out with that guy before they were cool, right? But amongst this particular cohort of people, you're going to find a lot of this kind of easily passed around, this kind of politically correct culture. So you just gave them a piece of advice. You say, grow a pair. Why? Blah, 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 blah. What do they say back to you? Or do you keep your mouth shut in these circles? Or even if you keep your mouth shut, I'm asking you that. Do you say this? And then number 2, what have you heard the back and forth? Like, what do they say? Do they say, oh, that's easy for you to say? Or do they say, oh, but you don't know how I feel and my lived experience, and they start sounding like a brochure of critical race theory?
It's definitely more difficult these days to have these types of open conversations, especially in the last year. I'm just a neutral type. I listen to people for whatever they have to say, and I generally don't share how I feel because you know, unless again, like unless there's something like, okay, I'll tell you how I feel, but like again, I understand you feel that way. I'm here to listen. I can't change your mind the way you can't change mine. So yeah, in the music world, I definitely, especially these days, I feel like I have to be a little bit careful. I mean, I don't know. I mean, at some point, I'm probably not going to give a shit, but like, like nowadays, it's because I deal with people that I hire and I deal with people that I know are very sensitive, like just the way they are on social media. And I just try to be as neutral as I can with them because at the end of the day, we're all making music together. That's what it's all about. And from just my experience, then, we, when we don't bring it up, it's all good. It's all good. If you don't bring up anything political, it's all good. But there's definitely people that I found that, okay, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to talk to them because I know they want to bring things up. But I just have to be neutral. I just navigate through it that way and just hear them out and try not to drag on the conversation because the few times that I have, it's like, okay, at the end of it, nobody changed their mind.
Okay, so they are intransigent, they're intrepid in their particular position, they stay stuck there. But is there any fair argumentation, or is it just my feelings and you don't understand and you have privilege?
Well, just from my experience with musicians that are around me, I mean, I've met all of those, the hipster types, the real artist types, and the hippie types, or with the chakras and whatever. But I know a lot of them, they talk about their oppression and their suffering and all that, and that's how they translate their musicianship, right? I mean, you probably heard that, like, oh, because of my struggles, I'm able to make music. And I guess I see that, I understand that point of view, but it's just one of those things where it's like everybody expresses themselves differently. It's very difficult sometimes to, I mean, sorry, maybe I'm like going in circles now, but from my experience, yeah, I mean, from my experience, like I just have to sense where this person is coming from and I just respond accordingly. I'm just never the type to want to just fuel a debate or argument because again, at the end of it, there's no changing their mind. But I'm all about planting seeds. So maybe I'll say something, maybe they'll take it, maybe they don't, No, I did not make fun of my cousin's husband.
Yeah. So Aaron B is our resident burning with yellow fever dude, and he's making sure that he's out there chasing Filipinas out there in England, I think, and he wants to make sure that his black ass doesn't get made fun of behind his back. And that's why he's asking. He wants to make sure that he has a chance of being seen as the golden boy, or is it the I don't know, the brown bread, or I don't know what the thing would be. Can't be golden if you're black, but
what does it call it? Like golden brown, or like when you put something.
It's more of a bronzed type of. Yeah, he wants to be the bronze boy. He does not want to be made. No, you will be made fun of by some auntie out there. Some auntie's gonna ask, like, "Oh, how about the baby? The baby's gonna be so black."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've heard that for sure.
Yeah. So there you go. You cannot. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask you. So how do you deal with the musicians that you've been around? Like, I mean, obviously you've experience every single type. That's why you were able to clearly describe them. I mean, how do you deal with conversations with these people?
So first of all, I gauge their level of involvement in the particular cause, right? So do they really believe in it, or they're more of like the hipster type? The hipster type is just like, yeah, man, cool, man. Like, right on, man. Black power or whatever. Oh, what am I supposed? Oh, this power. Oh, whatever. Which card am I supposed to wear today? Okay, those is like, whatever, I don't really care, right? And then for those who are really into it, I gauge if they're thinkers or feelers, and they're easy to spot, right? The thinker will give you certain arguments. They might start quoting some statistics. They might tell you about Chairman Mao or whatever it is, right? And then the feeler is just going to go on, do I need to explain the feeler to you? They're just feeling all over you. Like, like the feelers, I have a way of using for example, you're into this whole meditation practice as well. You know about the ego thing and so on and so forth. I latch onto the feelers with that, where I say, okay, well, how about you? How about the prejudice in your heart, right? Is your ego perfect? Now, I'm not saying I'm just going to say it like this, right? But I'm using shorthand here to tell you where I go with it, right? I obviously go, there's like 50 steps before I get, in order to get them to see, oh, I too am as much of an oppressor as oppressed, okay? I too have turned down, let's say you may be a woman and you've turned down men, right? And then maybe you're talking about the men who turned you down, okay? You may be taller than somebody, you have the 2 arms, you have whatever it may be. You pick a particular dimension, okay? There are at least as many dimensions where you are where you represent the privileged, if you will, as those dimensions where you represent the underprivileged, right? So I have them feel that. And that's easy to do. We have those skills, right? You have them feel it. And then you also have them feel like, okay, would it not be better to that sense of, in other words, it's easy to get these feelers to see, at least for the moment being, I don't trust them in the sense that tomorrow they're going to just start feeling all over the place again. They forgot what I said. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, but you get them to feel the fact that the problems in the world are not out there. Okay. They're in each and every one of us. To quote Solzhenitsyn, okay, the line between good and evil is down the middle of every man's heart. Okay, the evil that you see out there in the world didn't come from outer space. It came from Homo sapiens, of which you are one. If you think you're so different, you're crazy, right? So I use I go into them, do my empath psychological magic / sales skills to get them to kind of feel like, oh yeah, I'm not perfect too. Oh yeah, I struggle with this kind of judgmentalism too. Oh yeah, the evil that's out there in the world can't just be all out there if I want to be all embracing and so on and so forth. So that's how I address the feelers. The thinkers, I wait for them to give them, the thinkers are a little bit more easy because they give you lines of logic, and then I just kind of shoot some doubt into the weak spots of their lines of logic. And you would say, I would then say more straightforwardly things such as, well, do you think that prejudice exists as a natural human quality? In other words, does it not all just come from genetics and family? Like you and your brother, you prefer, right? You want to keep things within the family, right? So why is that white family over there particularly evil? Because they want to keep it in their own little tribe. As a matter of fact, do we not see that if we let people do what they will, they'll self-segregate? Why is that? Well, isn't it not just genetic preferences? And then we may then begin to have a conversation about whether that's desirable or not, how that can be changed or not, perhaps the amount of power it would require to change that, and if that power will not cause more harm than good, right? So that's how the thinkers I tend to trust more in the sense that they might incorporate that into their thinking now, where it's like, you know what? Let me think a little bit more carefully about me saying, oh, this big power should come down and level everything. I say things such as, for example, I give you the example of, the whole in Ethiopia, more women are going into engineering. And it's not because there's a whole bunch of engineering women on TV, right? It's just because it's for other things. But also, if you look at the Scandinavian countries where you have the most socioeconomic egalitarianism, over there, you have women making vastly different choices from men. Meaning, people think, oh, it's this oppression that causes women to make certain choices. Us engineers are keeping women out because we're so chauvinistic and misogynistic, which, by the way, I am. Okay. But
yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, 100%. But that's not why women are not going into and enrolling into it. It doesn't stop them from enrolling, okay? We're not there blocking them. We're like, hey, haven't kind of enroll in this, you're coming in this class. No. People make choices based on X, Y, Z, genetic background, blah, blah, blah. You could call it nature or nurture till you're blue in the face. Those argumentations tend to be moot at some point. But the point is this. Experimentally, we can see that even if you level everything, men will still make different choices from women because men like things, okay? And women like people more. They don't want to sit and code and drink Monster and eat Cheetos. Generally speaking, they rather go into biology if they go into STEM and stuff like that. They want to be nurses and doctors. They saturate, by the way, the biological sciences. Those kinds of arguments can be given to the thinker types, right? And then you have the ones that are just neither thinking nor feeling, just pure animals out there, and I don't bother with those. So we've been going a little long on this one. What time is it right now?
7:15.
7:15. Okay, cool. Not so bad. Let's see what more we can draw from this. And ladies and gentlemen, this is episode number 3 of the review, where we take pieces of footage from popular culture and we review them. It could be pieces of audio or a piece of art, who knows, some popular culture, and we review them, we talk about them, we try to extract certain salient points that we can comment on. And today we are looking at the interview by Oprah of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. And so far we're seeing things that touch upon independence versus having to play a role, the individual versus the institution, and then having a public life. Okay, there's a life in the public, which Meghan Markle has been used to. She has been in the actress thing, but now she's going into a different kind of public life, but she doesn't really like the way this one is controlled. And she's making it seem like, oh my God, it's so different. I never knew he was a prince. I never knew I was going to be in the media like this. She's saying things like, oh, I don't want this, but oh, you're not going to give my son a title, and so on and so forth. And then there's the oppression Olympics aspect of it, which kind of derailed us for a little bit with about the whole, my oppression is different from, what's the other lady's name?
Kate? Wait,
Kate, yeah.
Kate?
My oppression is, Kate is white privilege after all, and I'm a little brown, and you cannot compare racism to just calling her whatever the hell they called her, because somehow racism is worse, which is just utter nonsense, bullshit. It's like, I like somebody who said, like, racism these days is like an old 3-toothed dog. It's like, it can still bite you, but you just gotta shake your foot a little bit, right? And it's gone. Like, it's not there. The dog is still alive, still got some teeth, but Jesus Christ, shut up already about comparing yours. In other words, it'd be perfectly fine if you say, yes, they came for me for this, but to say it's worse than other people's because it's racist. And then, they talked about the color of my baby. You damn right they talked about the color of your baby. Are you insane? Of course, people are still people, right? Okay? Even in your family, you, Mr., let's say it's a dark-skinned person, some person of color, if you will. I think you're a person of color too, right? I detect a hue over there, some kind of beigey, warm tones or something like that. Person of color in your family too. If there was a white person coming in, there are people who say things about colorism and the color of the baby or this or that or the other. So shut the hell up already about that nonsense. So let's continue and see what else they're talking about over here.
And equally, you've also had a press team that goes on the record to defend you, especially when they know something's not true. And that didn't happen for us.
You mentioned earlier, Harry, that you were hurt by the fact that there's been no acknowledgement on the part of your family that this was different because of race. Mm-hmm. Do you think there ever will be? And would that make a difference to you?
Yeah, it would make a huge difference. As I said, there's a lot of people that have seen it for what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people. Like, it's talked about across the world. Yet, the very people that don't want to see it or can't see it.
Did you leave the country because of racism?
It was a large part of it. I remember that the Santibali fundraiser.
Yes.
One of the people at that dinner said to me, "Please don't do this with the media. They will destroy your life." this person is friends with a lot of the editors and like that. And I said, sorry, just elaborate, what do you mean by that? Obviously, I knew. He said, you need to understand that the UK is very bigoted. And I stopped him. I said, the UK is not bigoted. The UK press is bigoted, specifically the tabloids. Is that what you mean? He goes, no, the UK is bigoted. And I said, I completely disagree. But unfortunately, if the source of information is inherently corrupt or racist or biased, then that filters out to the rest of society. That announcement that we put out on the 8th of January in 2020,
fair use.
That was, the contents of that was put into a letter to the institution, to my father, which was then shared at the end of December while we were in Canada. And to then get back on the 6th, after my grandmother had said, the moment you land, come up to...
We asked if we could go up to see her.
Come up to Sandringham. We'd love to have a chat. Come for tea. And why don't you stay for dinner? Because it's going to be a long drive. You're going to be exhausted.
She even said stay the night.
Wonderful. I'd love that.
Yeah.
The moment we landed in the UK, I got a message from my private secretary, Fiona, at the time.
Private secretary is sort of like a CEO role in the institution.
Cutting and pasting a message from the Queen's private secretary, basically saying, please pass on to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex that he cannot come to Norfolk. The Queen is busy. She's busy all week.
After she just invited you?
Yeah. Just invited me. The Queen's busy. She's busy all week. Do not come up here. Okay. So I rang her from Frogmore that night and said, I was thinking about coming anyway, but I hear you're now busy. And she said, yes, there's something in my diary that I didn't know that I had. And I said, well, what about the rest of the week? She goes, well, that's busy now as well. Okay. I didn't want to push because I kind of knew what was going on. And then later that night,
but doesn't the Queen get to do, doesn't the Queen get to do what the Queen wants to do?
And there you have it. It's one of the silliest, stupidest thing I ever heard her say. I don't even think she believes that. She's a high power CEO type, and everybody knows the higher up you rise, the more of a responsibility you get to shoulder, the less free you are, right? Why don't you speak on that, if you will, Joan, about doesn't the Queen get to do what the Queen get? What the hell is that? Is it a madhouse? No. The Queen doesn't get to do stuff. The president doesn't get to do stuff. The CEO, no, you get to do what the institution says you get to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as we know, for even like the president, they don't just do whatever they want. You think they're just making laws out of their ass? No, like there's a team of people that decide, hey, this is what you need to do for the country. So same, I'm sure it's, I don't know. I don't really know how royalty works, but I would just assume like she's a queen. She has her duties. She has things she has to do. And just from this whole rant about it being about race, like, is it really about race? I mean, I have a hard time believing that. It's maybe they just don't like her. They don't like Meghan, you know, like they maybe see like, oh, she's just an opportunist, you know, she just wants something from us. I mean, I don't know. I mean, kind of like she's a queen. She can make her own personal
most likely
opinion.
Both. Like on that race thing, I think it's probably both in the sense that, yes, okay, maybe they don't like you at the job or they're negatively predisposed to you. They're prejudiced. They've made a prejudgment based on skin color, so on and so forth. But, okay, you're also an asshole, okay, and you're not helping the situation. And perhaps you're an asshole as a result of the prejudice, right? But that does not help you either, right? The idea that, well, they started it, that does not help your case either, okay? So you can't be like, well, they started it, they judged me incorrectly, so I'm going to be an asshole, and then blah, 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 and everything snowballs. That does not work. And then the independence here now, which we started off from the beginning, where she's like, oh, I'm an independent woman and coming into this institution. The fact is, institutions such as this, especially when it comes to royalty, it's about service. It's not about independence. You get a certain kind of prestige, and it's usually an ego prestige, right? You get to wear the robe and put on the hat, and everybody looks at you and claps. But your life is in complete service to the institution, to what the institution needs, to the image of the institution, and on and on and on and on. Same thing with the president, same thing with a CEO of a company, so on and so forth, right? There is a trade-off, okay? Even in, let's say you talk about, let's just take it down to the warrior prince, which is the place from which these aristocracies come from. The Caesars, the Alexanders, so on and so forth. Back then, you got to fight from the front, right? You got to lead the charge. Most Roman emperors died violently, okay? Why? That's the trade-off. You get to serve. And we even see this all up till now, even with the recent Bushes, where whether you're a Kennedy or Bush or so on and so forth, if you want to put on that cloak of I'm a royal, your son, you're going to go to the military. You're going to serve. You don't get to decide that, right? This kind of idea of, I want everybody to look at me and I want to be queen, but I don't want to do anything. I want to just doesn't the queen get to do what the queen? No, it's never been that way. Like, no, there is no time in history where it was ever that way. This kind of thing that she's saying just kind of shows a gross misunderstanding. And again, I don't even think she believes it, but she's just kind of saying it. She's just kind of like, she said what she feels, but really, if she sits and thinks about it for a second, either in her life or in the whole way of the whole aristocracy, warrior, prince mode of being, it's always a trade-off. You shoulder a big responsibility, and then we give you status. All you get is status. You don't get freedom, you just get status. So I will give you the last word on this. This one went a little long, but I think that it was worth it. I don't know. You had a good time with this one, Joan?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't follow the royal family, but it's just very fascinating to see a woman like her getting into that mix and how naive she is, just doesn't understand. I think so. I guess my last word is like, know exactly what you're getting into. Okay. And if you're in
your last word is women want a strong man. That's what your last word is.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'd be turned off if I was stronger than the man.
Ooh, look, you see that? You see that? Look, when we out here saying these things, there's certain types of people of the PC nature that are like, oh my God, that's such toxic masculinity. When we know it's just BS and they're lying and never, anyways, go ahead and then we'll go out. You're saying that know what you're getting into is basically your, okay.
Yeah. Go know what you're getting into. And once you're in it, you have to commit all the way, commit all the way until shit hits the fan, or maybe it works, You never know until you commit all the way.
Know what you're getting into. Commit all the way. Maybe it works. Maybe shit hits the fan. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, we are gone.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what dwells behind the curtain, the face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come get it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come get it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.